So for a while, I've been interested in the Gnostics. The Gnostics were a group of early Christianity. They weren't non-Christians. In fact, the term Gnostic didn't even exist. They would have just considered themselves Christians. And I've been studying them because it's fascinating to think, we live in a world that used to be very Catholic, used to be very religious, and there's clearly a move away from that and a distrust in these institutions. And it makes me consider why we have neglected looking at the Gnostics if we barely trust the institutions that gave us the books that said that that's where God was. If that's where God was, then where is God in the world? The Orthodox Christian model never really provided a path towards spirituality. In fact, early on, when the church was getting formed, you had early Christian groups who left the church that we know about, like the monks, the Desert Fathers they're called. They left and went out into the desert because they saw the institution of the church. What they were really trying to do is get everybody on board with Christianity, and in order to do so, they made it as simple as just believe or else. And they provided no real path towards the development of an individual spirituality. And so the texts that got popular were the ones we have today, and the texts that went away, the spiritual text, well, they weren't mass-produced with the funds that the institution could provide. Luckily, in 1945, those books popped up. I mean, just think about the date, think about the time. 1945, in a time when the world was in absolute chaos, World War II. And then you have the decline of religion. I see these texts as almost like the earth just coughing them up, saying, "Oh, I think you're ready to read them." I mean, if they came up at any other time, who knows what would have happened to them. In fact, it took forever just to get these texts to us. But thankfully, we've gotten them, and I've been reading them. I was told not to read them. But when you read them, I guarantee, read the Gospel of Thomas. You will not think that it's heretical or some book you're not supposed to read. You will be moved almost immediately. It actually will be quite shocking at how powerful the book is, with over 50% of it being found in our New Testament. It's just the sayings, and it's not even really a Gnostic text. And that word Gnostic itself is confusing because, again, it didn't exist. If you were to meet a Gnostic today, if you lived back then, they would be shocked that you would consider them different. The real difference was they were a group of people who believed that you had to have insight in order to access God. You can read a book. I read lots of books. I don't always get insights from them. They don't lead me all the time to some divine place. I'm sure many people read the Bible, and it might have some effect, but with the decline of people reading the Bible, one has to wonder, has it lost its effect? And just at that time, now we have these new books to look at, and they will inspire a different way of reading. To be sure, they are not or never were considered to be gospels themselves. Even when Paul was writing his letters, he wasn't thinking, oh, this is going to be a scripture. No, he just thought it was a letter. There was no scripture in the New Testament. In fact, in ancient times, most religions, if not all, did not have texts. They just had rituals and practices and traditions passed down. It was the Jewish tradition that had a text. And so to differentiate itself from Judaism, the Christians started calling their New Testament writings scriptures. The Gnostics used their text, these texts, not as gospels, but rather as kind of side texts that could help them interpret the scriptures in a certain way. And that's really what Gnosticism is all about. It's how do I get insights from the text? And what's the big deal about an insight? You know, when you have an insight, you go, oh my God, it's an aha moment. In psychoanalysis, that's actually what we're trying to do. We're trying to create insights, deeper understanding to things. You know, so like say you're reflecting on your childhood and something haunts you about it. You know, maybe there's a trauma, and so you do talk therapy. And as you did talk therapy with a therapist, an analyst, they're going to help you have insights about what you're saying. Meaning, you're going to be able to go back and see what happened, connect it to what should have happened or the right thing that could have happened to you. You know, you can kind of process it and work through it, and that alleviates an inner conflict in you. That's what insights do. And so that's at a psychological level. At a spiritual level, because we live in a world that's broken, in the book of Hebrews, it says that this world is a copy and shadow, very Platonic, of the real world. A lot like that movie Matrix. You know, there's a reason those movies resonate with us. In fact, almost every movie that's really popular, like an action movie or a thriller, a lot of them have Gnostic undertones, this concept that we're not supposed to be here, that there's something off with the world we live in. And I don't even need to argue that's a fact. So what the Gnostics did is, you know, they pulled from Plato, because a lot of them were Greeks, and they pulled this idea of the world of forms and the shadow world that we kind of live in. That we live in a shadow world, and that there's a real world of forms, the perfect place, Christians would call that maybe heaven, where there's the perfect, it's the ideal, and that in some way that the ideal world has cast a shadow, and that's where you and I live, temporarily, because we all are leaving. This clearly is not our final destination, and if it is, what a sad reality that we just live for such a short amount of time. But the spiritual person, they use insights to, as they meditate, you know, they might look out into nature and have a certain feeling. And if you follow that feeling, although it's not as tangible as we might wish, it brings us to a certain place or a certain feeling, and that feeling is a certain remembrance of where we came from. You know, when you're playing with your kids or, you know, hanging out outside and having a good day, there's moments where you feel like, wow, there's something I'm missing. Like, I miss that. And that's what true religion is supposed to do for us. It gives us a kind of vocabulary, a way of seeing the world. And so Gnosticism was, look, we live in this broken world and we're going to endure it. There's lots of good things we can do here. And we're going to use our community, we're going to use our time to invest in things that are going to help us remind us, that are going to give us insights into the real world from where we came, and hopefully where we all end up back. So I actually may teach a class on Gnosticism in the fall. So I thought I would just start sharing with you what I'm reading, what I'm thinking about. There's a great book right here. It's a textbook on Gnosticism. Let's see if I can show it to you. It's called Introduction to Gnosticism. It's by Nicola Denzi Lewis from Oxford University Press, and it gives you a good overview. You won't know everything about it, and it may still be a little confusing, so stop by this channel and I'll